Well, hello. What a pleasure it is to have the opportunity to keynote at IWCE and talk about public safety communications. Wow, has a lot happened in my career. I started in the professional fire service in 1978 in Oregon and have remained active till today. And my current role is the chief executive of the Western Fire Chiefs. We focus on generally two areas of topical interest, one being wildfire, and the second being technology. And if there was a third, it's the intersection of wildfire and technology. And of course, all that fits very nicely into my history at FirstNet and the legislative lift that led to FirstNet, and my ongoing relationship with all things technical for public safety. And it continues to fascinate me, and I continue to be amazed by the opportunities. But to understand where public safety communications is going in the future, I think we probably spend a few minutes talking about where we were. And if you go clear back, and this is prior to the formation of FirstNet in 2012, we go clear back to the Public Safety Spectrum Trust under the command of Harlan McEwen and his board. Morgan O'Brien, of course, was involved in believing in public safety early and put his money where his mouth was. And a lot of people look at essentially the failed auction of the PSST as just that, and in fact it wasn't. What it was is step one of two necessary steps, because absent the PSST and their vision for a nationwide public safety broadband network, we would have missed the entire opportunity to see that future. So along came the Public Safety Alliance under Chris Moore, chief then of San Jose, California. And Chris led the Public Safety Alliance, which in my history was the first time that all public safety associations came together and fought for one cause. And that cause was a nationwide public safety broadband network we now know as FirstNet. And our goals were simple. We wanted the 10 megahertz, we wanted Congress to award us the 10 megahertz of spectrum currently held by the PSST and the D block. So the issue became about the D block of spectrum. We wanted some starter money. We wanted the ability to take the spectrum and the starter money and create an unparalleled first ever public-private partnership between the US government using spectrum and starter money, and to create the nationwide public safety broadband network. But we wanted it objectives-based, and we wanted an independent board on which public safety could be seated, because at the end of the day, FirstNet was always envisioned as a network by and for public safety. And I am very proud of the fact that today it is exactly that. And I will tell you that there were plenty of people that would tell you and told us we were crazy, that this would never work. You know, they said, you will never get the spectrum, never. And if you do get the spectrum, you'll never get the money. You'll never get the spectrum and the money. And even if you do, no one's going to build devices or chipsets. And even if you get all that, no one's going to bid on it. And even if someone bids on it, no one's going to sign up. Fascinating what happens in a decade or so, isn't it? We got the money, we got the spectrum, we got the independence, we got the ability to do an objectives-based bid. We sought a partner and had multiple bidders for the opportunity to build this network. We, as of the last I heard, over 1.5 million subscribers so quickly on a nationwide public safety network. And we're watching the thirst for applications, devices, ecosystems. We're just watching that explode on public safety end as we watch the need for mobile data just go through the roof. I think it's amazing. The FirstNet board back in the days, we knew one thing about a public-private partnership. We understood, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that on the FirstNet board, you had people with their backgrounds in commercial wireless. And what we knew was that a corporation always has their top fiduciary to their shareholders. So if we were ever going to make public safety a top responsibility of a wireless company, then we had to create a contract vehicle that made the interests of public safety the same as their shareholder interests. In other words, if you failed to serve public safety, it was going to hit your share price. If you serve public safety, it was going to be good for your share price. Once you create that alignment between public safety, serving public safety, and your responsibility to your shareholders, that solves the big equation, because absent a contract that does just that, a corporation's obligation is always to its shareholders. Compliments to my colleagues at FirstNet who saw that vision very clearly and crafted an opportunity and a competitive contract process that called that out into the forefront. And initially, we were under Sam Ginn, who really had an amazing challenge. Sam's job was to build FirstNet from nothing. He had his hands full. New board, no employees, no rules, no protocols, nothing was in place. And Sam did an amazing job, and public safety should always be grateful to Sam. And then along came Sue Swenson, literally the game changer at FirstNet. Sue Swenson knew we needed a roadmap, and that roadmap started from where we were till we had a deployed network with customers signing up. Sue built her team and started to hit the ground running. It was amazing. And she was our chairwoman from the roadmap all the way through network deployment on into 1.5 million subscribers. And Sue's vision and drive has always earned her public safety status in my mind. Thanks to Sue. And what that did was it really, the creation of a national public safety network, what it's done now is it's led to a land rush of adaptation of commercial capability, commercial tools and products for people looking on how to make those mission critical and how to bring those solutions to public safety. And I would say at the Western Chiefs, when I talk about technology, wildfire, and the intersection of both, we spend most of our time helping companies see what public safety's needs are. Because after all, there is so much available in the commercial sector that is not mission critical. And let's face it, public safety will not accept it if it is not mission critical. We can't. FirstNet and the contract also reshaped how carriers looked at public safety. There was a meeting for those of us that were involved in the legislative lift where at the time the 4 carriers, all 4 said, when asked, would you ever allow priority for public safety on your network? And all 4 said no. Isn't it amazing what happens? As we know, AT&T won the contract to build the FirstNet network and build a network with priority and preemption. But it's not just them. The other carriers are also have huge initiatives to attract, retain, and to appeal to public safety. Isn't it amazing what happens when you see public safety as a necessary customer on behalf of the shareholders? Isn't it amazing how attractive public safety became? And I think if you look back in time, I think we always knew that public safety would be a cornerstone of a reliable network, of a network. If it was attractive to public safety, it certainly should be good enough for my family and I. But I'll tell you what, it requires more than just marketing and ad campaigns to be public safety grade. You have to have reliable coverage. You have to have a hardened infrastructure. You have to have deployables. You have to have long duration backup power. You have to have security. And you have to have the kind of oversight that makes sure that public safety's interests are served. And absent any one of those things, what you have is just a regular network. And like I said, public safety cannot and will not settle for anything that isn't mission critical. And I just think that as a vendor, you must look at this public safety market and you have to ask yourself one question. Does my offering serve public safety's needs, number one? And number two, does my offering serve them in a way that they can trust their lives with it? Because absent the latter, it won't be good enough for public safety, nor should it be. The fact is, though, we have more to do. We have our future looks more like dealing with a host of issues that have either never been opportunities before, or we just haven't had the right opportunity. We need a nationwide ubiquitous uplift of next-gen 911 centers. That these centers need to be sustainable technology. That we have to stay on the front edge. You can't be on the back edge. They have to have state-of-the-art security. We have got to think about transforming our public safety answering points into more of an intel center as machine-to-machine communication takes over more of the routine communication. When I was on a PSAP board of directors, we used to measure push-to-talk time. And as you deployed mobile data computers that would run license plates and do a lot of the routine tasks for the officers on the street, what you'd watch is push-to-talk time drop. Well, let's just take that to its next logical conclusion. As machine-to-machine communication, direct access from the responder into the necessary database and databases starts to take place, the PSAPs take on a different role. They take on not only the role as the broker between the caller and the responder, but they actually, because they're going to have first view of video streams and photos, et cetera, they literally will become a thinking part of the operation and be an intel component for responders and a critical intel part of components. They are today, let's face it, but it will become even more so in the future. Another thing we have to do is we have to focus on full integration of the private systems that inform our responders. I'll just give you an example. OnStar is a perfect example. Like today, you typically will get an OnStar notification for a motor vehicle accident at A and B Street, and that's what you get. But the fact is, OnStar, with a high degree of reliability, knows how many people are in that vehicle due to the weighted seat triggers in the vehicle. They know the speed at which the vehicle hit that tree. They know whether it's on its top or on its wheels. I could go on, but they have a lot of information that is not making its way to the responder, because the fact is the police and the paramedics, we would send an entirely different response to 8 people in a Suburban that hit a tree at 80 miles an hour than we would a 5-mile-an-hour bumper-to-bumper crash on an interstate during rush hour. A motor vehicle accident is not the same as a motor vehicle accident. They are different based on the physics. So being informed about what OnStar has, what the Alarm Monitoring Association has, Rapid SOS is another tool that informs the responder with a more robust picture of what's happening on the scene and with, frankly, our customer. Also, we have to develop our ecosystems and create a common operating picture. It's odd to me that at this point in our technology evolution that we have the technology, but we haven't created the ecosystems. And when I'm talking about a common operating picture, I'm talking about, in my context, a wildfire that has a common operating picture, that has an integrated thermal imaging layer that comes from real-time flyovers that have been contributed to by satellite work. Maybe even the detection was done by a hyperspectral sensor in a satellite. But what if that common operating picture had a police layer, which is an evacuation layer, a wildfire layer, it had an EMS layer, it had all the components necessary for the incident commander to make decisions about that incident, including the resources that were coming, how far away they were. I could go on and on and on. but we need that single common operating picture, and we focus on the C. It's the common part. The police need that same version of a common operating picture so that when we swipe a neighborhood and say this neighborhood has to be evacuated first, we can in real time see how the police are doing in evacuating the neighborhood. Hats off to Chief Brian Fennessy in Orange County, California. The FIRUS program put together by Orange County, Interra, and others. Of course, California, OES, CAL FIRE, they typically lead the nation in terms of applying technology to battling wildfire. But Chief Fennessy in Orange County, they had the FIRUS program, and I could hear from my home in Bend, Oregon, I could watch the development of the fire, the true progression, the predictive analytics, and you could literally, based on wind, topography, fuels, and fire spread, know where that fire was going to be in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes. That's the kind of innovation that we need. And the fact is, as with us personally, applications are the key for us. They're key for us as individual, and they're the key for public safety. And a healthy app ecosystem is essential for public safety. And if you look back in history, failure to have an adequate application ecosystem has been the death of more than one company. And I think as we consider how you serve public safety, we have to think about lifting the intellectual load on the incident commander. I reflect on a Christmas Eve where I pulled up in front of a mall as the first arriving officer to a roof fire, and that mall had to have, I don't know, 10, 15, 20,000 people in it, and we went straight to 3 alarms. And I remember thinking, I wish I simply had a tool at the time. I wish we had a tool that told me what order the equipment was going to arrive so that I could start giving logical orders rather than thinking I knew who was first and picking the fourth due company and putting them in line and then only to find out someone was there first. I think also as we think about our future, people are always asking me, you know, when will LMR die? And frankly, I think it's an irrelevant question. I think it's the wrong question. I think the right question is, how will LTE change the current landscape for public safety responders? And to me, there's no magic here, right? It is about coverage. It's about backhaul. It's about reliability. It's about devices. It's about security, and it's about functionality and feature sets of all those combined things. And the fact is, all can be achieved through LTE. So to me, what you have to do is you have to say to yourself, it's not about LMR. It's about communications, and it's about reliable communications for public safety. It's not like public safety is slow to adopt. They're not. They're slow to give up something that works. And what we're seeing with LTE is it's proving itself to work. And if you can weave together public safety's need for reliability and coverage and in-building penetration and reliability, then what technology it is begins to be moot. And so a lot of us chiefs, right, we have infrastructure. We have towers, we have 911 centers, we have needs. And I've done it myself. I think about how are we going to communicate? Well, the conversation's greater than that. The conversation's more about how do I get the 911 call? Because if a large percentage of my taxpayers don't have cellular coverage, and 2/3 of the calls today are coming in via 911, then the fact that I can talk is actually missing the point. We have to get the call and then have the ability to communicate on our way to the call. So you can quickly see that there's no way to disentangle the conversation about LTE and LMR. There is no question in my view that LTE is the future. When it happens, here's when it happens. Public safety will switch to LTE exclusively the day some lieutenant in a fire station says to his battalion chief, when he says, why do I carry 2 devices when all I ever use is my LTE device. That's when it changes. It isn't when you technically met the requirements. It isn't anything else. It's when the people that use the tool insist on this tool. Because at the end of the day, we can't fail. I also want to thank the Safer Building Coalition for their work on improving in-building communications, because at the end of the day, if your tool works, sometimes you quit using it. If your car only starts every third time, you get a different car. So we can't have our tools stop working as we enter a building. It's just not functional. So in-building coverage is important, and we have to continue to improve in-building coverage, and we have to frankly continue our work on the Z-axis. The Z-axis, the vertical axis, knowing what floor a police officer, paramedic, or firefighter are on, that is in fact the holy grail of what we're trying to do here. When as an incident commander, I hear over the radio, Mayday, 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 I've fallen through the floor, I have got to know where those crews are, and I've got to know where to send the RIT team to get them. Getting that floor right, getting the left and right access of where they are, getting that right is paramount for public safety. It creates, for the first time, true situational awareness. Technology also creates some challenges for us. There's always a conversation about open standards versus proprietary, and you know, my opinion on it is fairly simple. FirstNet pushed for, demanded, and expected open standards, and the reason is that we wanted to inspire an ecosystem that today there's over 100 devices that are FirstNet ready. Reminder on the backs of many telling us it would never happen. Open standards leads to innovation, it leads to stimulating the ecosystem, and it leads to more tools and resources available for public safety. But on the corporate side, you have to appreciate that the very proprietary nature of having something unique is what adds to shareholder value. And it is this unique blend of having a unique offering that other people can't just copy and steal, and also having open standards so that people will innovate around it. That is the magic of creating the opportunities between proprietary and open standards, and that has been, and it will always continue to be, a challenge for us. We are also on the cusp of very disruptive things happening in terms of what affects public safety, and not the least of which is autonomous vehicles. You know, I wonder how many police chiefs in America today are asking themselves, what are we going to do when we can't write a vehicle a ticket? I mean, I didn't drive it, it drove me. So if it ran a stop sign, don't write me a ticket. I couldn't control it if I wanted to. So what happens as we rethink the model, because technology virtually changes everything we do? Wearables will change what we do. The Z-axis will change what we do. The real opportunities, in my view, for the future lies in the solutions and the applications and in the devices. It is this blend of the hardware, the software, the applications, the entire ecosystem, and how that all comes together on a call on behalf of the customers that we serve, the people that call 911, and the responder. The people that get that right are going to earn public safety's loyalty. And if you've learned anything about public safety responders, you should know that we're eternally loyal and we don't quit easy. Our technology history proves that we will stick with what works, because at the end of the day, our life depends on it. It must be public safety grade for public safety to adopt it. It must be. We're also facing a new challenge recently, and that's the 4.9 spectrum challenge. Recently, the FCC chairman mentioned that they were open to considering other ways of using the 4.9 spectrum band that's currently licensed to public safety. The Public Safety Spectrum Alliance, it's a group of us that have put our voices together to focus on asking the FCC to leave that license in the hand of public safety, that is our next battle line. The FCC has always been responsive to and demonstrated care and interest in what public safety needs. We just have to make it known. We believe we need that 4.9 spectrum. I mean, I have yet to hear the argument of why public safety should walk away from spectrum on the cusp of the next generation of communications. The fact is, we aren't using it very much. But what you should know is spectrum needs are determined by the future, not by the past. If you're a public safety practitioner, I want to challenge you. Get involved. There is a generation of people that led the last technology reform. And we seem to be absent the generation that's coming after us, and we need you. If you are a responder and you are technologically motivated, then you need to find a way to get involved. And virtually every discipline within public safety, they have a way for you to get involved, and we need your voice and we need your vision. So that is critical. If you're a vendor, you have to find a way to listen to public safety. You need to listen to public safety. They will tell you what they need. They will tell you what mission critical means to them. But you have to listen, and you have to engage them to listen. You will never be successful taking an aged commercial approach, shoving it at public safety and telling them it'll work, because they're very sensitive and have been the victim of vaporware too many times. Too many promises broken, too many ideas with poor execution. If you want to win public safety business, you have to prove that you hear them. You have to prove it solves their problem. And if you prove you will solve their problem, you will have a loyal customer that will be slow to leave. I like to reflect on why that's important, and I want to leave you with this thought today. That there is a moment in every responder's history where it is a life or death decision. And sometimes the only thing that saves your life or costs your life is your ability to communicate. If we make the technology tools the public safety responders are going to use, and it's the kind of thing that's a life or death decision, then you have to put yourself in their shoes. It's not just another statistical failure that one way or another shows up on your quarterly report. No, if you're going to serve public safety, you have to have the context of their life and the lives of the people they serve are at risk if my technology or my approach fails. How dare we be anything but the best when public safety responders and the customers they serve, their lives are on the line? How dare we? Thank you.